Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about how we can actually create a GUI project using Java. And this will work on any operating system we're working with, but we're going to go ahead and get started off with this. Right now, as you can see, I made a quick little project inside Eclipse, and we've got my demo GUI project. I have a package right here for demo.controller. I've started with my regular runner, just has the public static void main inside it, where I initialize my controller object, and I call it start method. Down below, you can also see I've got my controller right here. It's got the start method in there as well, and that's what we're going to start off with. We're totally and completely done with the runner, so I'm just going to close that out of the way because I'm never going to use it again as we work through this. Now, when we're talking about working with a GUI, what we're really talking about is how we can make an actual window show up on the screen, what we can do to make that happen. And so to do that, what we have to do is we have to actually use a different part of the library of Java that comes with it. We're specifically going to be using the JFrame part of the Swing library. And so to make that happen, we're going to add a new package to our project and go from there and start adding some pieces to it. So the first thing we do is we go over to our project and make a new package. So just go ahead, right click on here and go to new and go to package. And I'm going to call this the same thing I'm working with, in this case demo.view, because the first part of the package name talks about what I'm working with, and the second part of the package name is what subgroup we're working with. In this case, is the view package, because it's what we're doing to actually show information to the screen. Because then we're doing that because I'm using a model view controller relationship for all the stuff we do in class. And as you can see right here, when I make that package, it's empty by default because there's nothing inside it. It's that little white empty box because nothing's inside there. And now we're going to go ahead and add our class to that. And so the first thing we have to do is we have to add a class. And so new class, and this is going to be the demo frame. I know it's a really amazing name because, again, I try to make things a name that matches exactly what it is and what it does. And so my demo frame right here, you can see I've got a frame right here, just says a regular package that it's working with, the class name, but it doesn't do anything. So in order to make something happen, what I have to do first is I have to go ahead and I have to give it the information it needs to create a frame. And so the first thing I have to do is we have to add an import statement to that. And that's where we're going to go right here. And we add an import and javax.swing.jframe. And that's the first part we have to do. As you can see, it's got a yellow underline of uselessness because I haven't done anything with it yet. But that's how I get access to the JFrame library, all the information about the class and its methods that we can use that we're going to be working with. Now that I have access to the class and its methods, to make it so that this demo frame is a JFrame, that it will have all the access and control that we're working with, we're going to use the principle of inheritance. I'll talk about it more in another video, but right now we're just going to use the keyword and go from there. And so we add the keyword after the header, we add extends, and then JFrame. And now what we have with this, you can see my yellow underline of uselessness went away on javax.swing.jframe, and it says that now class demo frame is a JFrame, because the extends keyword says that I now have access to everything that JFrame can do and knows publicly. It's a great way to get access to information, and that means I now have a frame that I can work with. So now I have a frame. It's an actual window that shows up. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to my controller. I'm going to make an instance of this in my controller so I can see that. And so I'm going to go over here to my controller class again. And since this is in a different package, I have to have an import to it right here in my controller. So that import right here inside that. And so import, and then demo.view.demoFrame. And I make a data member in here. And so it's a private demo frame. And I'm going to call it the amazing name of window. And inside my constructor, I'll have to get that going in just a second. So now I have a reference to it in there. Now I need to make it so I can actually have that frame exist and have reference to what we're working with. So the first thing I have to do inside my demo frame, because I'm talking about that model view control relationship, I used the analogy before that we have a dashed line and a solid line like you see on a road to separate the ideas between the model view control relationship. The controller can cross over and talk to the view. The controller can cross over and talk to the model. But the model and the view have no idea they exist. They don't even have like a reference. It's not even just a double solid line. It's more like that there's a giant barrier wall between them. They don't know anything that's going on across that wall. And so what we have to do in order to talk to the controller, of course, is we have to add an import for it first inside our frame class, and then we have to make a reference to it so we can actually deal with it and work with it. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's add the import statement. So import, because it's in a different package, and demo.controller.demoController. And I'm going to make a data member in my frame that references that as well. So it's going to be a private demo controller. I'm going to give the appropriate name of controller. Again, I give really boring names because it makes it really easy. Now I've got a yellow line because I haven't done anything with it yet, but that's okay. The first thing we have to do, though, is we have to now make a constructor that we can build that object so we can have access to it. So constructor is going to be public by default. So public, and it's a demo frame. And our demo frame needs a reference to the controller as a parameter. So we can actually give it information and send it back using using the controller as like a singleton pattern. So we have a single instance of the controller we use for the entire application, and we'll go from there. So I have a demo controller right here. and I give it the fancy name again of controller. And I've got my stub for my constructor right here as well. Now, because I'm using inheritance, I always want to have a good practice when I'm working with inheritance. So the first line I do for any class that uses the extends keyword, like I do right here, the first line of all constructors in that will be a call to super. And super just gives a call to the parent class's constructor and does all the work of initializing all the data members and variables that go along with that. And that's always a good thing to do. So we want to do super explicitly to make sure we have good practice on our code as well. Next thing to notice is, of course, I have a parameter. And the rule is if you have a parameter, do you want to use it? And I have this data member right here that's that same type. So I'm going to assign that parameter into the data member. So this dot controller equals controller. And you can see that I'm attacking the parameter into the data member because the green right here matches and the blue right here matches. And because I'm using Eclipse, if I highlight it, you can see, ooh, that highlights that because it's talking about the same thing. If I click on this one, they link together because they're talking about the same thing. And that's that basic part right there. Wonderful stuff. So I'm going to hit save right here. I'm going to go back over to my controller, and we're going to make it so we can install that window, make it happen. Okay, cool. So I have to make a constructor. So it's going to be a public demo controller and parens and squigs. And then because I don't have inheritance, I have to worry about super on this, but I want to make sure I initialize my window. And so I'm going to say this.window equals new demo frame. And I can't simply just do open close parens because my parameter right here, remember, it has a reference to a demo controller. And so I have to send a reference to the controller I'm working with to that parameter. And the way I do that is I put the keyword this inside here. That sends a reference to the controller, the one I'm working with for my entire project. I can send it out to the window frame, and it can say, oh, I've got now a reference to it. And so I hit save right there, and I can build this app and run it. I'm going to hit play, and the render popped up, it disappeared, and I look over here at my terminal window. It terminated. I didn't see a window happen. Oh, well, the problem being, the frame itself, when Java says, hey, the JVM says, oh, you've got this window pop up. Great, cool, wonderful, but you didn't do anything with it. That was dumb. We're just going to get rid of it. So we have to make sure that when we're working with a frame, we tell it to make sure it's visible and available. And so we're going to make a helper method to go along with that. And we'll do this with every frame class we're working on. So I'm going to go ahead and make a helper method inside my demo frame class. It's going to be a private void. I call it setup frame. And I do this all the time. So this is something you'll see in some of my other videos. Setup frame is just the helper method I use so I can make sure I load all the pieces. The last line of setup frame needs to be a call to this.setVisible. And I pass it true. And so right there it says it's going to be visible and I can actually see it. Now, obviously you can see setup frame has the yellow line of uselessness because I haven't called it yet. So I'm going to go right here, and at the bottom of my constructor, I'm going to say setup frame, call the method. So I have access to it. And that makes it so I can have that happen. Now, although set visible has to be the last line, there's a couple other pieces we want to put inside our frame for our basics. The first thing we're going to do is give it a size. So this.set size. And we'll do 800 by 600. And this dot set visible, and then this dot set title, and my window. Exclamation points are always a good thing. They are. And then my last bit is going to be this dot set resizable and true. So now I have a window that I can resize. It starts off at 800 by 600. It has a title on it. And the last line has to be set visible true so I can actually run that app and have it go. So I'm going to hit save again, go up and hit play, pop that window back up, and my window shows up, and here's my window app. It's amazing. I can resize it. I can use the close window application. I can minimize it. I can maximize the screen. Oh, cool. Get it back down to a nice normal size. And it's really cool. It's really nifty, but it doesn't do anything. We're going to go ahead and do some more stuff with this. We can add in more functionality and features to this, like including a panel, adding buttons, and doing more cool stuff with that. Take a look at my next videos that go along with this and have a great time. But that's how we can make it and do this. So just as a quick review, to make this happen, we have to have a demo frame class that's going to extend JFrame. The JFrame subclass right here has a constructor that takes a reference to the controller. We initialize the constructor with a call to super, and then we assign the parameter right there. We have a setup frame helper method that we load all those pieces in to make sure that the last line is always set visible true. Otherwise, if I run it, it'll just shut down and go away, and that's not very helpful. And then inside my controller, I have to make sure that I make a data member that is a demo frame, that is and give it a great name of window, and then I initialize in my constructor. And of course, I have to have an import because that resides in a different package than demo controller. And so I have to have an import statement for that because it's in a different package. And that's just a quick way we can make a window happen and go from there. Take a look at other videos inside this playlist. You can do some cool stuff. Thanks again. Have a great day. Cheers.